Mr. Speaker, after 8 years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. That's why we need a common sense Conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Let's start with the first. I think we have some clear. Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime. And today I rise on the first of those Conservative priorities. I think members across the way are becoming more and more convinced that we might be onto something with this 4-point plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Why do we want to axe the tax, Mr. Speaker? Well, let me start with yesterday's debate with the Prime Minister. I highlighted once again the Medeiros family farm. They produce mushrooms for all of the city of Ottawa, but have been facing tens of thousands of dollars in monthly carbon tax bills alone. Now, the Prime Minister claimed that I had told the farm to stand on its own 2 feet when it was trying to bring natural gas to its farm, and I couldn't possibly understand what he was referring to, because of course I'd helped the farm. I dug up the quote, and I said in response to high energy prices that the goal is to find a commercially viable way that this kind of project, natural gas for farms, can stand on its own 2 feet, pay for itself, and create some jobs. Now, from that moment, I went to Enbridge, which, being a large multinational pipeline company, it'd been hard for an individual farmer to get on the phone. I got the executives on the phone. I told them why this pipeline was needed to take gas to the mushroom farm in order to generate the steam and the other power that's needed to produce mushrooms. And ultimately, the project got done without any tax dollars and paid for itself because natural gas is significantly cheaper and less polluting than propane and oil. This is an example of how we can do great things for our farm families without costing money to Canadian taxpayers and without creating new federal bureaucracy. Now, the Prime Minister's comments, though, do speak to his patronizing view of all Canadians. He believes that Canadians can never stand on their own 2 feet. Well, in fact, the only reason Canadians are struggling to do that is because he is on their back, right? It's like the Canadian people are carrying a backpack, and he comes along and says, "Can I help you with that? It looks heavy." He puts the backpack on his shoulders, and then he piggybacks on the Canadian who was carrying it in the first place. And now they're carrying not only the bag, but they're carrying him. And in this case, the analogy refers to his carbon tax. That same family farm, which was thriving through intelligent investments, including in natural gas, which he and his radical environment minister want to eliminate, were thriving and employing dozens of people in our community. Now, they are paying carbon taxes of $10,000, $20,000 per month, an amount that the Prime Minister wants to quadruple to 61 cents a litre and an equivalent charge on natural gas. On April 1st, the Prime Minister, with the full support of the NDP, intends to raise the carbon tax by 23%. This at a time when Canadians cannot afford to eat. Moments ago, the Prime Minister had one of his parliamentary secretaries, the member for Kingston, get up and say that 1 in 4 school children are not able to eat. You know what? That is quite an admission from a government that has been in power for 8 years. They used it as a justification to create a new federal bureaucracy. They say it's a school food program, except that there's no food in the program. In fact, it's not even in the schools. It's in Ottawa. So in downtown Ottawa, they propose to create a series of meetings and bureaucracies and organizations that will collect yet more money from the rest of the population in order to talk about creating agreements and frameworks on, discussions for, consultations about an eventual program that supposedly will feed the 1 in 4 kids that are hungry because the government is taxing their food. Mr. Speaker, why not skip all those steps and just stop taxing the food?
Here.
Like everything this Prime Minister does, he doubles housing costs, and then he says, oh, we need a new government housing program. He doubles the number of shootings in Canada with his catch and release policies, And then he says, oh, we need new government programs to combat the gun violence that the government unleashed with its criminal code changes. So he causes these problems, and then he says that the problems that he causes are then a pretext for him to have more power and more money. Well, Mr. Speaker, we all know that this Prime Minister is not the solution. He is the problem. The last thing we need is to take more money from our working class families and farmers and seniors and put it in his hands. And so we stand in the House of Commons as the only party that opposes this carbon tax hike. The NDP has betrayed working class people in places like Vancouver Island, in northern British Columbia, and in northern Ontario, where their constituents rely on pickup trucks, where the rural people and farmers use energy to power their combines, their tractors, their farm drying, and their barns. The NDP raises taxes on all of those people. The NDP wants to shut down Canada's resource sector. Just the other day, the member for Le Petit Patrie, Rosemont Le Petit Patrie, cheered at the prospect of shutting down the entire natural gas economy, which would devastate the people in the NDP riding of Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
That's right.
So what we have is a radical agenda by the Prime Minister and his NDP allies, coalition partners, to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre, all while shutting down our resource sector so that we can import from dirty dictatorships. What we have from this Prime Minister is a pro-Russia energy policy which shuts down our energy industry to give more and more business to power Putin's war machine. All of this supported by the NDP. These facts build a firm and final case that only common sense conservatives stand on the side of working class people who need their pickup trucks to do their jobs and build the country. Seniors who need to heat their homes in Edmonton in minus 50-degree weather. Single mothers who are putting water in their children's milk because the cost of produce has risen under the Liberal NDP carbon tax. Children, 1 in 4 of whom, by the government's own admission today, 1 in 4 of them are going hungry in our schools. This is the misery that Canadians are living after 8 years of this Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the definition of insanity is when you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Raising taxes and shutting down industries has sent 2 million people to the food bank. It has doubled housing costs. It has led to homeless encampments that we never had before in cities across this country. 30 homeless encampments in Halifax alone. The reemergence of illnesses that were long ago banished, like scurvy, because people have become malnourished under this Prime Minister's impoverishing policies. We as common sense conservatives will undo this damage. We will axe the tax to lower the cost of gas, heat, and groceries so that our seniors can heat their homes. Our families can feed their kids. Our farmers can once again repatriate production of food to this country using the best environmental stewardship on planet Earth. Our energy and resource companies can harvest the cornucopia of bounty that our country has beneath its feet and use those resources to lift the world out of poverty in the most environmentally friendly way that could possibly be imagined. We are the best. Our workers are the best. Our inventors are the best. Our businesses are the best. If we could get the government out of the way, then we could have the best. We will have that, and we will do it not because of big, powerful government dictating from on high. We will do it by the great Canadian people standing on their own 2 feet, the common sense of the common people, united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's